WagerTalk Today. I'm Lawrence Presman. What a show we got lined up for you guys. Oh my God, November. So much betting information. A million sports underway. Ross Benjamin's going to join us right off the top. He's going to look at the Monday night football game. That's right, Miami on the road playing the Rams. We're going to take that game apart. He's also got a bet for us on the Yale-Purdue game. I know a lot of you guys are very interested in that game. Ronald Cabang, he'll be joining us. He's got 2 NBA plays to give out. When Ronald talks NBA, we should all listen. He's going to take apart the Cavs and the Bulls, the Clips and the Thunder. And we're going to end the show with Andrew McInnis. Live from Puck Time. He just put that one in the bag. Puck Time is up for all of you to watch. He's going to give us a prop bet in tonight's football game and a prop bet in the Colorado Avalanche hockey game. Teddy Covers is my co-host. I'm Lawrence Presman. This is the best daily sports betting show on the planet. Teddy, what is your big game breakdown?
Well, then what bettors learn? We're going to talk bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. And of course, when it comes to big game breakdown, we'll talk some NBA as well. San Antonio and Sacramento, Kings on the second of back-to-backs, off an overtime win in Phoenix. How do we approach it? Stay tuned. We'll do it before this show is through.
Teddy Covers, we already have someone in the chat room. Wes, congratulations on your 5% winner, Teddy. I think it was on the Steelers. Am I wrong?
Yes, it was on the Steelers. You were wrong. If you bet the other side.
I did not bet the other side. But thank you for
asking. Then you weren't wrong.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I did lose my 5%, though. I had LSU. That was a horrible loss. And the horrible loss is in a horrible bet. Like, way wrong. Way, way wrong. But right on about everything else, Teddy, I pushed that 3-day all access all week last week like a crazy dog in heat. And I'm coming into tonight on a 21-9 run. My customers all did exceptional. I should have gone 5-0 yesterday, Teddy. 5-0. Instead, I go 2-3. Lost Atlanta. 3 missed field goals, lost the under in the Chargers game, stupid ending, and the under in the Dallas game by 3 points with 2 turnovers in the end zone. Enough from me. Ross Benjamin joining us. How are you, Ross?
Hey, I can't complain. Always a pleasure to be with you two gentlemen.
Well, we know you can't complain. You're talking to 2 males. We're not going to listen to 1 second of it.
Yeah.
Okay, my brother, let's get into tonight's football game. We got Miami, a huge situation. Hill, is he going to play? Is he not? I think that's definitely something to factor in. He's questionable going into tonight. I know you like the total here. Which way are you going?
Yeah, in regards to Hill, my theory's always been, it's all baked into the line. I don't get too caught up with who's playing or who's not because it's reflective of where the total or point spread is. So Miami coming off a gut-wrenching 30-27 loss at Buffalo last week. I say gut-wrenching, guys, because Tyler Bass of the Buffalo Bills kicked a 61-yard field goal with no time left on the clock. It's the same guy who banged one off the upright in an extra point and barely squeaked in, and then he also missed an extra point, and then he kicks a 61-yarder right down the middle, and it would have been good from 65 or more. However, they scored 30 points, Buffalo, but it's very deceiving because the Dolphins held them to 325 yards of total offense in that game. As a matter of fact, the Dolphins' defense this year, Teddy, not bad. They're only allowing 303 yards a game, so it's not like they're not 2-6 because their defense has been playing bad. They're 2-6 because they didn't have Tua for most of the year, and since Tua's come back, they've gone 0-2. Since 2022, the Dolphins are 6-0 to the under off a division loss, only a combined 35 points per game in those contests. And here's the thing on a Monday night angle here. Anytime you have an NFL team playing on a Monday night, coming off a road loss by 2 or more, and the total is 43 or greater, which this obviously is, 38-3 to the under since 2018. Miami has only forced 6 turnovers all year, 6 turnovers in 8 games. The Rams since 2022, 8-1 to the under versus teams that force 1 or less turnovers per game. Those games, 36.2 points per game. And the Rams have only allowed 18.3 points per game in their last 3, Teddy. So not only are they winning, but they're doing it defensively as well. And the Rams also this year, when a total is 48 or greater in Rams games, those contests have played 3-0 to the under. Give me Miami and the Rams to go under the total of 49.
So conceptually, I got to ask you, we look at the Rams, and it's clear their weakness, their biggest weakness is their defense, and particularly against the pass. They've struggled against good passing games. We look at Miami. That's what Miami does well. When you flip it the other side, LA's been fairly balanced on offense, but they're getting a couple of linemen back, and certainly the passing game has been there since their receivers got healthy. And Miami just got torched again last week, just like they got torched by Arizona the week before. So when we talk about these two defenses in particular against these two offenses, doesn't it set for an over as opposed to an under? Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, I could definitely see what you're saying, but again, this total opened at 50, moved down to 49. Monday night game, not a lot of guys standing in line betting unders on a Monday night in terms of the public goes. So I'm looking at the sharp side of the action here. I like to think my side of the action is sharp as well. And although good points, Teddy, I just think both defenses, again, the Rams just allowing a little over 18 points per game, and the Dolphins, their defense has been solid all year long. Yeah. Still a high number, right, Teddy? I mean, you still got to score more than 7 touchdowns, or better than 7 touchdowns to get this game over the total. So, good point, but I thought that all over, and I'm going to stick to my guns on this one.
Ross Benjamin, everybody, the youngest looking 87-year-old you will ever find. Ross,
gotta love it, Prez.
I got a follow-up question for you. And Teddy, I'm curious on your thoughts here. Now, there's many different approaches to handicapping games. I do not ever get caught up in trends. 6-0 to the under after a division loss. That's one of the trends that you gave out.
Correct.
To justify your under. Now, I understand that we come up with a play sometimes, then we find stuff to justify it when we're speaking on air. But that has to be a meaningless trend. Unless you can explain to me why 6-0 to the under after the division loss is a thing.
Yep.
I don't buy it. And I'm bringing it up. One sec, Ross. I'm bringing it up not to piss on your trend.
No.
But to discuss the concept of these trends and how to use them, etc. Like, for instance, the Tomlin trend after a bye. Love it. Makes sense. Tell me why this one does.
Well, if you like that Tomlin trend after a bye, well, then you're going to like these trends that I just mentioned. Because the bottom line with me is, here's how I look at things. I'm not a big proponent of trends, and you're absolutely right, Prez, when you bring up that sometimes we need a little bit of fodder to support our selection when we're on air, correct? But at the same time, I do pay attention to when a trend such as the ones I just mentioned that date back to 2022, which basically is over the last 2.5 seasons, are under the same head coach and coaching staff. So there seems, it lends to me a bit more credibility when it's under the same coaching regimes. The same thing goes for me in college football, okay? I can care less about the trends in college football as it applies to the teams because nowadays with the transfer portal and guys leaving early doesn't have a lot of meaning to me. But if it's under the same head coach or slash coaching staff, it certainly is not the telling factor of why I use that play, but it certainly, again, lends itself to credibility in terms of a supporting factor.
Teddy, anything to add?
I think what Ross said made a ton of sense, and what you said made sense too, because a lot of times, look, when you go through your thought process and end up on a side or a total, now as a handicapper, a public handicapper, you have to justify it. When you're at home, you don't have to justify it; you just make the bet. But we're on air; we got to justify it some way or somehow, and that's what we do. Whether it's whether it's the thought process, I try to use my thought process behind the bets, but there's always stuff that you put in that all right. And here's another point. And that's a part of the process of what we do.
It's such a great point you make, Teddy. This concept of justifying our thought process. I can speak specifically in NHL. I write analysis in every one of my NHL plays. None of that analysis went into my thought process. And I say it on air. Like we have to give analysis. So I write analysis. My thought process is, I think that this is going to happen. Why do you think that? It's a feeling I have. Why do you have that feeling? Because I watch and study this shit all the time, and I bet based on the rhythm and emotions of players and teams, and I can't explain the rhythm and emotion of players and teams. So instead, I come up with trends to justify my thought process, but when push comes to shove, a lot of these trends are slightly irrelevant. And my suggestion to you guys when listening to us handicappers give out these trends is ask why. It makes sense why Mike Tomlin is so good after a bye. Ask why. Why is it that Miami is under 6 games in a row after a division loss? There's no rhyme or reason to that. Anyway,
I disagree because
that's fine.
Coming off a division loss, especially a tough division loss like they did last week, defensively they play a lot better off a division loss for whatever reason. I can go through the numbers with you. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, again, it's a trend to me has to make sense. And again, I go back to the same head. I think you're missing what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying
I get it.
Agree with me, but when you're talking about same head coach, same coaching staff, that's my main premise for even mentioning the trend. You'll never get me to say Miami's 22-6 since 1980. Who the hell cares? You know what I mean? So that's the thought. It adds to my thought process is all it is. And guaranteed, Prez, it's never the main reason why I like to play,
Yeah. And Ross, you nailed it right there. You nailed it as much as anything can be nailed. Has nothing to do with the teams. Pay attention to the coaches and the trends for particular coaches. And that matters a lot in college football when coaches go from place to place to place. And the team doesn't have any of the trends, but the coach does. Excellent point, Ross. Let's move on and talk about the second game you want to talk about tonight. Yale, Purdue college basketball. Tell me what we're going to do with the Boilermakers and the Bulldogs.
Well, this line opened with Purdue being a 17-point favorite. Purdue's the nationally ranked team in this matchup. Yet this line has moved down to 14.5. Why? Good question. Neither team has played quality opponents so far. Purdue 2-0 straight up, but 1-1 against the spread as they beat the likes of Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Northern Kentucky, barely covering in the Northern Kentucky game, not covering in the opening game against Corpus Christi. Yale off an 88-62 home win against Quinnipiac. And then they go to Illinois, Chicago last week, and they lose 91-79 in their last game, I should say. Here's the thing, though, Teddy. I looked at This is the main reason why I like this play. Purdue has coming up after this game, in their next two, they'll face number 2 Alabama and number 18 Marquette. So this is a textbook classic example of a look-ahead spot and a potential flat spot for Purdue. They say the great equalizer in college basketball, Prez, is the ability of teams to knock down three-point shots at a high degree of efficiency. Well, Yale, even though they're just 1-1 and they're coming off that loss, they've done that. They've averaged 9 three-point makes a game in the first two, and they've made 41% of those attempts from long distance. And since 2022, Purdue's 2-11 off a home win by 20 or more, and with the same coaching staff, Press. And also since last year, Yale 5-0 against the spread after scoring 40 points or more the first half of each of their previous 2 games, which they did under the same coach, James Jackson. So I am going to go with Yale here, plus 14.5 over Purdue.
Ross Benjamin, the oldest looking 37-year-old you'll ever see. Ross, what do you got to promote?
Hey, you know what? 6-1 last week in college football, guys. So coming off a great week, nice. Won all 3 of my 4% top plays there. So that makes me 47-23 with my football 4% best bets. Not bad. Over again, you could check out all my streaks right now over at my personal link, wt.buzz/RB over at WagerTalk. Also, NBA is on the horizon here. Been very good in the NBA over the last 2 years. College basketball finished up strong last year in college basketball, especially good with my college basketball totals, Prez. So a lot of good stuff. And don't forget, college football, number 1 since early December at WagerTalk in terms of money earned in college football. If you use the promo code FBALL50 at checkout, you can get $50 off my college football annual package. FBALL50.
I was like, F off? FBALL50, everyone. Ross, thank you, my brother. Now
thank
go have a nap.
Guys.
Ross Benjamin, everybody. Teddy covers. Ronald Cabang still to come. Couple of NBA games. Andrew McInnis. We're going to look again at tonight's football game. Your big game breakdown. There's so much to go, but this is the best segment we have. It's all you. Take it away.
Let's talk a little bad beats, bad bets, and bad for the books. A recap of what just happened this past weekend from a line perspective, from a Las Vegas perspective, whatever you want to call it. And we'll start with some bad beats. Couple on Saturday really stood out. Missouri, Oklahoma, under 42. The worst beats are on unders, always. That's a 10-9 game going to the fourth. Neither team has moved the ball 1 iota all day. The biggest play going to the fourth quarter was a fake punt. You know, we talked about it on College Football Today on Friday. Oklahoma's no offensive line, no receivers. Missouri's got no quarterback. So it's 10-9. You have a fumble and then a cheap 30-yard touchdown drive with a missed extra point. And then one good drive from OU, the only one. 16-16, 3:18 to play. You still got 10 points to work with. And then it goes like this. Fumble return touchdown. Penalty-aided touchdown drive. Another fumble return touchdown. All in the last 3 minutes and 18 seconds. 30-23 final, flies over by double digits. Under bettors, not amused with the ending of Missouri, Oklahoma. How about UAB? Plus 7.5 against UConn. It's 20-3 Blazers at the half. It's 23-10 Blazers. Again, they're plus 7.5. 23-10 going to the fourth quarter. It's hard to lose that one. What happens? TD, fumble first play next drive. TD. Now UConn has the lead. Another fumble, another score. 21-0 Huskies run out. Plus 7.5 for UAB. They lose the game by 8. Gut punch. Buffalo, Indy yesterday, under 47. That was no fun. 23-3 with 3 minutes to play. Bulls score a touchdown. It's 30-13. Indy's got 2nd and 25, and then it's 3rd and 15, and then it's 4th and 8 with 38 seconds left. No timeouts. Of course it's complete for the first down. 14 seconds left. The clock is running. Bills called for neutral zone infraction. The clock stops. 2 seconds left. Flacco to Alex Pierce for the touchdown. 30-20 final, goes over the number. Brutal if you had the under in that one. And Titans-Chargers under 39.5, probably not as bad as Indy-Buffalo. Worthy of mention, though. Tennessee scores a touchdown on the first drive, and then 4 punts, 2 field goals. Chargers leave 3 minutes on the clock with a 27-0 lead. Just enough time for the Titans to punch in that meaningless TD. 27-17 final, goes over the number. Bad news for under bettors. And, I mean, what do you say about the Texans' moneyline bettors last night? Plus 190 versus the Lions. Goff throws 5 picks. Detroit held to 3.3 yards per carry. And the Texans become only the second team since 1933 to lose a game in which they caught 5 interceptions and led by at least 15 points. Teams had been 373-1 in that role. The last time a team did it, well, the Bears lost to the Baltimore Colts 21-20 in 1970. Johnny Unitas threw 5 interceptions in that ball game. That's how long it's been. And of course, the under in that game's worth mentioning. Could only stay under with this sequence at the end of regulations. Detroit field goal make, Houston field goal miss, Detroit field goal make. Total bounced around 48.5, 49, 50. 2 field goals allowed most under bets to cash. 1 touchdown would not have. When it comes to bad bets, what happened? Let's see. They bet up Indiana. The Hoosiers were as low as 9.5 at the open. They closed minus 14.5, minus 15 against Michigan. The Wolverines' defense kept them in it again. 20-15 final. Indiana didn't sniff a cover. Tennessee minus 23 to as high as minus 27 against Mississippi State. Did that on Big Game Breakdown last week, saying it was too many points. It was too many points. Vols pulled away late to win by only 19. All the bad bets came on Tennessee in that ballgame. The Giants were as low as minus 3 at the open against Carolina in Munich. Bet up to 6.5 with juice at many books. Carolina won the game straight up. The Giants can't be laying 6.5 to anybody. All Falcons money yesterday. Nobody bet the Saints. The Falcons were missing field goals, and the Saints won outright. All Niners money. Nobody bet the Bucks. The 49ers are missing field goals, too. They hit the one that matters. Won by 3, but 6.5, 7-point chalk. San Fran, got to call it a bad bet, even though it was a lot had to do with the kicker. When it comes to bad for the books, let's see. The wise guys were all over Georgia Tech. That upset at Miami on Saturday. Money poured in on the Yellow Jack when Haynes King was announced in. Plus 13 down to plus 8.5, and all the money line that went along with that. The Georgia Tech won that game straight up. Big move on Boston College before kickoff. Opened as low as pick against Syracuse, closed minus 3. Battle back and forth. The Eagles ended up winning by 6. That was bad for the books. Kansas as high as plus 6 at the open, threw the key number of 3 everywhere. They beat Iowa State in straight up fashion. That was bad for the house, and Pros and Joes were both on Colorado in their 2-touchdown win over Texas Tech. That was bad for the house as well. When it comes to Sunday in the NFL, Jags-Vikings total landed right in the middle. Probably better than if it flew over. But the bottom line is, lands right in the middle. Still not great for the house. As low as minus 3 at the open for Minnesota. Trevor Lawrence announced out. Minnesota closed minus 7 everywhere. They won by only 5. Tons of under money as well in that game. Bad for the books in that regard. 47.5 down to 42.5. Landed 19, all that under money cashed. Steelers Commanders wasn't a good game for the house. Pittsburgh got bet off the key number of 3 down to plus 1.5. They won the game outright. Nobody laid with Kansas City. Pros and Joes both on Denver. Chiefs minus 9.5. The open down to minus 7. Denver wire to wire against the spread. And Will Levis said nobody bet the Titans either. Chargers from minus 7 to minus 8.5. They won the game by 10. There you have it. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
Hate when I have 2 games that show up in your frickin' bad beat segment Teddy covers. Thanks for that. Guys, real
Not
quick,
when you have the right side of them.
Yeah. I'm never on the right side of bad beats, and there's a reason for that. It's because I'm normally right and get unlucky. And I'd rather that happen, Teddy. You're better off being right and unlucky than wrong and lucky, because
I'll disagree all day with you on that one.
Wrong and lucky doesn't last. You go ahead, be wrong 100 times in a row and tell me how many times you get lucky. I'd rather be
in
right
any given game. Sure, in any given game, I'd rather be lucky than good.
I don't talk about giving games. I'm a professional sports bettor. So are you. We win one, we lose one. We have a good Monday, we have a shitty Tuesday. We are grinders. We want to be right. We want to get our money in good. And if the
I
cards,
agree with what you're saying. But if I have a choice between being right and winning my bet, I'm always going to take winning my bet over being right.
Well, duh. Okay.
Well, no, you're saying, no, it's stupid. You just want to be right. No, I'm going to win my freaking bet.
Okay. Congratulations on winning your freaking bet. Guys, real quick, Ronald Cabang's joining us, but real quick, I got a promo for this week. We're going to be giving it out all week. It's Prez 25, 25% off of a 7-day or 30-day all access. Prez 25. I'm rolling in everything. 4-1 in my last 5 NBA plays. 8-1 in my last 9 college basketball plays. On a 6-0 college hoops run. 9-2 on the season. Up in NHL. Killing it in NFL sides and totals. Heating up in college football. I don't know what more I can do for you guys on a 21-9 all sports run. I hate free money. Prez 25, 25% off of my 7 and 30-day all access. Lots of love. Thank you for joining me. Ronald Cabang, we love having you with us. How was your weekend, brother?
It was pretty good, profitable weekend. Sunday wasn't great, so hoping to bounce back here today. I have a 4% play in the NFL and the NBA. So overall, though, we talk about consistency over the last couple months. Over 103 units of profit since September through multiple sports. So just continuing to go in the right direction as far as like NBA, NFL. I think NBA, I just looked at it. For college basketball and NBA together, I'm number 1 there as well. So NFL number 1, all that stuff is going pretty well. Just a bad Sunday, that's it. And we're going to bounce back, hopefully.
And it happens, Ronald. Let's get into some actionable betting information in the NBA tonight. And we are up against it. We have a hard stop at 12:45. Ron, we got the 11-0 Cavaliers, 9-2 against the spread. They're playing Chicago. It's around -8.5. Chicago 4-6 on the season, 4-6 ATS. How do we bet this game?
Yeah, Cavs coming off of that low-scoring game against the Nets. They only scored 105, so I could see a bit of a bounce back offensively from them. Bulls, they limited the Hawks to 113, but they did score 125, and then right before that, they scored 119 to the Wolves. So I think their offense is coming together a little bit, but we know the Cavs, obviously they're normally a great defensive team, but they've really picked up the pace this season. They're 8th in the league in pace. The Bulls are 1st in pace. Bulls rely on the 3-ball a lot, and if you want to call out a hole in that Cavs defense, it's their 3-point defense. So I would actually look towards the over in this one. I would lean towards the Bulls as well with the points, just because if they're going to be able to shoot the 3-ball consistently, they should be able to stick within the 8 or 8.5. That would be the way that I go in this one. If you look at some trends, Cavs 7-4 to the over this season, 3-0 to the over as road favorites. So some support there for the Cavs.
So when we look at the series history between these two teams, the last 10 meetings, highest total is 225.5. Tonight we're looking at 237s. Clearly, we're talking about a very different range from where they've been. And for all the success, I mean, Cleveland's number 1 in the NBA in offensive efficiency so far. They're reigning threes. For all the success they've had, at some point the Cavs are going to come back to earth. When it comes to their shooting percentages, they're not going to drain threes like the 43% clip all year like they have through the first 10 games. Do you worry at all about either of those two factors leading to a lower scoring ball game?
No, I mean, I've been waiting for the Cavs to really let down offensively. They had that against the Nets, but the Nets are surprisingly a pretty decent defense. If you look at the Bulls side, they're not. And you look at the difference in pace between how the Cavs were against the Bulls in recent seasons versus how they played this season. It's a whole different team as far as like their whole outlook on the offensive side of the ball. Being 8th in pace this season compared to what they were in the previous 3 or 4, it's a huge difference. So I mean, you put those things together, it could be a track meet. It's going to be huge on the Chicago side to be able to hit those threes. If they're going to be able to do that, they should get up and over and force Cleveland to stay with them.
Guys, if you like what you're hearing, take a second out of your day, hit that thumbs up button. Close to 300 of you in the chat room. Only 50 likes. A lot of that's on me. I didn't ask at the top of the show. But come on, Chris, B, Daddy, Bill, Little Bull, Natural 8, Josh, Waj, you know the drill. Hit that like button for us, my brothers, please. Okay, so Ronald, we got the over team, the Thunder, 5-5 to the over this year. But I think when all said and done, they're going to end up plus to the over. The Clippers are going to end up plus to the under. Take that to the bank. Here they play each other. How do you attack this total?
Yeah, this one is sort of a fatigue spot on the Thunder side, right? Second leg of back-to-back games, 3rd and 4, 4th and 6, the fatigue spot there. And then they're going to be without Chet. So that means they're going to be thin at the center position, right? And a lot of people are going to run to the window and say, take the over because they're going to play small ball. But you're going to see Caruso a little bit more, who's a defensive-minded player, not really that efficient on the offensive side of the ball. I looked at some of the numbers off and on the court with for Chet, and the pace actually slows down significantly when he's not on the court. And then their offensive rating comes down a bit. Their defensive rating gets worse too as well, but that kind of balances out with the offensive rating. But for the most part, it's the pace that I was really focused on because the Clippers, you nailed it, right? They're a strong under team this season due to their pace of play and defense. So if both teams are running at a slower pace, both inefficient offenses, I would look towards the under. And you talk about trends and systems and stuff like that. So there's going to be trends that back the under for the Clippers really easily. But if you look at something called systems, which is a little bit different than trends, in my opinion, you can go back historically, like 7-8 years. And these are repeatable scenarios, not specific to a team or a coach or whatever it might be. But if you look at since 2017, 600 plus game sample size, 57% to the under. Historically, it's been profitable to take the under in games where both teams face each other within a short period of time. And that game went under, and then the book moves the total a little bit lower as well. So that's a pretty solid indicator or an edge that you want to say that goes to the under. And that is active on this game here. So kind of the matchup-wise stats and all that stuff kind of point to the under in this one. It didn't make my premium card, but that's the way that I would look.
When we look at the pace ratings for these two teams, they're both faster than one might expect it. OKC, number 7 in the NBA right now. The Clips were the one that surprised me, sitting at number 11 right now. So both teams playing faster than average. Does that worry you here looking at the under?
Not really. I mean, I think, like I said earlier, without Chet, Chet played 82 games last season. You can't take the ATS numbers or the over-unders from last season to see how that affects, OKC. But what I did look at, like I mentioned earlier, was the on and off the court numbers of OKC with Chet. And when he's not on the court, their pace of play or their possessions come down about 4 possessions per 60 minutes or whatever that's called. Then you bring in Caruso, who's going to play heavier minutes. And you bring in like Osman Dieng or whoever the backup center is, because the other guy that came from New York, he's not even playing yet. He's still injured. Those guys are defensive-minded players, not going to bring a lot to the table offensively. And then the offense becomes less dynamic because Chet's not going to be there either. So a lot of it is really pointing towards OKC to really struggle on the offensive side of the ball. Whether the pace of play is a problem, like you say, like 11 or whatever it might be, Clippers offense still struggles.
Ronald frickin' Cabang. You promoted 4% play tonight in NFL and NBA. Ronald is rolling. Thanks for joining us, my friend. I love having you with us. Teddy, we ought to keep this moving. It's time for your big game breakdown.
Big game breakdown. Let's talk some NBA for Monday night. San Antonio and Sacramento. Fun game in the city of the Alamo. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. Sacramento -1, the prevailing number. Total's been bet down a little bit. 221, the current number. The Spurs just got Devin Vassell back after he missed the first 9 games. He scored 21 points in 22 minutes in his return to the lineup. Of course, the Spurs lost straight up as chalk to Utah in that game. but Vassell clearly helps their offensive flow. And it's worth noting that included a trio of threes. The Spurs' three-point shooting in early season play near the bottom of the league. Sacramento, number 28 in three-point shooting early on, just 30.3% beyond the arc. I would expect projecting forward, both teams are going to shoot better than from deep. We look at San Antonio against Sacramento. The Kings 8-1 straight up the last 9 meetings. The only Spurs point spreads they covered during that span were at plus double digits, plus 12, 10.5, plus 12, plus 16.5. When you talk about the more competitively lined games, San Antonio hasn't covered any of them. Of course, this point spread near pick'em. Kings are on the second of back-to-backs. They're playing off a very satisfying overtime win at Phoenix last night. Malik Monk got hurt in that game. Mike Brown put only an 8-man rotation. 3 starters played 40-plus minutes. Sabonis had 39. They will not be fresh tonight, especially because it's their 7th game already in November, and it's only November 11th. San Antonio's been a bottom feeder in every recent season. This year, they're clearly better, but they're playing without head coach Greg Popovich. And Pop doesn't care one bit about winning, playoffs, any of that. He's the only coach in the league with a job for life as long as he wants it. And he's out right now. The interim coach, same concept. San Antonio is number 26 in defensive efficiency. That's an issue. And when we look at the last 4 meetings, every meeting last year, 249 or higher, really fast-paced series. This year, so far, Kings only 19 in pace, down from last year, playing slower. That being said, tonight's a night that I expect San Antonio to look to run and push pace against a tired foe. This total's been bet down. I'll take it the other way. Give me the over 221. San Antonio, Sacramento, Monday night NBA. Appreciate the likes, appreciate the follows, appreciate the comments below. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
And guys, just to remind you all, Teddy's a humble man. But very few are better in NBA than Teddy covers. Don't sleep on this man's NBA picks. Teddy, we got Andrew McInnis joining us. AM, I hear you got a ridiculous looking, well, it's not yet fully ridiculous. But it's on its way to ridiculousness.
Yes.
It looks... I don't know. Maybe because you're 6'7", it looks like a pencil drawing.
I drew it on this morning before I woke up. I just felt like just doing some arts and crafts, when I was doing my handicapping today.
Are you raising money or you're just trying to piss off your wife?
So we went out. It was my buddy's really close friend's birthday on Saturday. We had a bunch of us go out, and it was pretty much decided that no matter if you have the ability to grow facial hair or not, everybody has to be clean shaven but the stash. So I already can't grow facial hair, and then I had to start on November 9th. So I didn't even get to have the full month. Anyway, I want to spend the least amount of time talking about that as I can.
Okay. Stafford. Matthew is his first name, and he's playing quarterback for the LA Rams and doing it tonight. You've got a bet for us on him. What is it?
I hope he is. I hope he is the quarterback for them tonight because I'm going to take the under on his passing attempts in this one here, guys. A few reasons why. Number one, you take a look at this Los Angeles Rams team. They're top 8 as far as gross yards per passing attempt. I did props and parlays with Andy earlier today, and we were talking about this pass attempt number. And for the Rams, they could have themselves a great game. Stafford could have himself a great game passing-wise and yards-wise, but it does not mean he'll come even close to this passing attempt number. He throws long balls. He throws, like I said, the top 8 in the league as far as, passing yards per attempt. And so for us, that helps us out with the under on attempts because unlike a lot of quarterbacks, he doesn't need that many throws to march the field. And you look at the defensive side of things for Miami, they're top 10 in their defensive aspect as far as passing attempts allowed per game. Then you look at Kyren Williams. His number at some shops is 20.5 for rushing attempts. All right. The books are expecting a heavy run game. Kyren Williams has gone over 20.5 rushing attempts in 4 straight games. I think a lot of things add up for this to be a mixture of a heavy run game for the Rams. And then when they are throwing it, it's a big play. I'm not predicting to see a ton of passes from Matthew Stafford tonight. And when he is throwing the ball, hopefully it's an exciting play. Hopefully it's deep downfield. And hopefully they're not just marching the field with a long drive, which accumulates all kinds of passing attempts. So I'm going to go under Matthew Stafford passing attempts Monday Night Football.
So last time out, Stafford throws 44 attempts. It's all dink and dunk. It's 6.8 yards per pass attempt. It wasn't one of those 8+ games. He's had a handful of those this season. In that overtime win against Seattle, I think he had 3 or 4 passes in overtime. So we had more than 40 in regulation. Are you worried about more of the same tonight?
I mean, small scale last week, yeah, that one is a miss, but 5 of his last 7, he has gone under. And like I said, the matchup works well for both. You got one team that's high up as far as gross yards per passing attempt and one team that doesn't give up that many passing attempts. So I don't know about you, but I'd rather be a team that's a bend, don't break defense. You know, I would rather the team, if I'm a Miami fan, I would rather be cheering for them to be a team that gives up the passing attempts instead of those one big long ball. But it sounds like they're kind of the team that does that. And it sounds like the Rams, when they are throwing the ball, they're looking at a lot of big plays. And I think that it kind of correlates with the fact that I like Kyren Williams over on his rushing attempts. You know, and I'm not saying it always does, Teddy, but I'm curious your thoughts on that. Like, would you say that the passing attempts for a quarterback a little bit correlates to how many rushing attempts you think the, 1A and 1B running back are going to get on a said game?
Sure, there's some correlation there, absolutely, but I wouldn't say it's the only correlation. How many running backs are going to get carries tonight? Is the defense going to get stops? So they're 3 and out, and then you're going to run a bunch more plays than you do if the defense doesn't get stops. I mean, there's a lot of issues. Just when you talk about pass attempts, that requires possession. So the handicap in my mind would come down to how do you handicap how long this team's going to have the ball or how many plays are going to have the ball. So, yes, that's one factor. It's not the only factor. Let's move on to the next game. Lawrence, you want to introduce some NHL for us?
Sure, Andrew. We only have a couple of minutes left. Avs playing Nashville tonight, Andrew, and I really like this game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I lean on the over in this game, 6.5. Where are you going?
That's a tough segue. I hope we can both find a way to win here. I'm taking the under team total for the Colorado Avalanche in this one. These teams just played a week and a half ago. Nashville did win that one 5-2, so they did keep Colorado under that 3.5 team total number. But here's a Nashville team that was so highly talked about going into the season, was so hyped up. They pick up Stamkos, they pick up Marchessault, they make some moves in the offseason. And to say they've underachieved to start this season would be the biggest understatement so far in the NHL. They have not looked strong. But the funny thing is, guys, it hasn't been their defense that hasn't been there. It's been their offense that has kind of been missing. They are, in their last 10 games, only one team has reached the 4-goal mark against this Nashville Predators team. It's the offense that struggled. The defense has been pretty good. The goaltending has always been great. And it's not often you get a minus 120 price for a team to go under 3.5 goals. I'm betting on a defensive game, but more importantly, hopefully a defensive game in favor of the Predators to keep the Avalanche under 3.5 goals. Guys, we're on a 7-2 NHL run, last 9 plays. Got one best bet up for grabs at WagerTalk.com. And also have a great promo code NHL150, NHL150. Take $150 off my full NHL season plus the playoffs in one great price. Get everything I release. Get the best prices available sent right to your email or mobile device the second that I bet them.
Andrew frickin' McInnis, what a show. Great stuff, Andrew. You'll see him every day at 11 a.m. Eastern on Puck Time. I will be on that show tomorrow. Guys, remember, I got one NFL, one NBA, one NHL, and one college basketball bet tonight. They're all packaged together in an all-access pass. I'm going 4-0 tonight, Teddy. I got a really good feeling about tonight's card. You keep kicking ass, my friend, and congrats again on that 5% winner. It's done. We're over. Take us home.
Sure. Single best bet available in the association for me for Monday night. You can get that right now. WT.buzz/TC. And that's going to wrap it for the Monday edition of Wager Talk Today. We'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Stay tuned on the Wager Talk network for the NFL opening line report. Myself and Drew Martin at the top of the hour, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, between now and tomorrow's show, best of luck with all your bets. Thanks for watching Wager Talk TV.